you today? This is Ron Dzinski. I'm the founder of Beyond PTSD, which has a blog site, Beyond PTSD, and the big website, which we're kicking off. Certainly, we invite you to come whenever you choose. I'd like to communicate with all of you at some point or another, and this is one of the ways that we're choosing to do it. Blogging is another. So, in any event, we're always interested in you people, kind of following through and asking questions that you'd like to have answered. In the meantime, I fill in with things that I think are interesting or things that you should probably know about. This is, I don't know whether it's day 3 or day 2 of the Hurricane Harvey, which is battering Houston. Huge amounts of water. I heard something saying that there's more water came in there in a 3-day period than goes over Niagara Falls, and I don't remember how long, but just an enormous amount of water. So in any event, I wanted to kind of talk to you about the consequences of this. I've talked about ways that you can get PTSD, and one of these ways is through a natural disaster. So statistically, and again, this is a guesstimate, and we try to kind of interpolate from what we know and try to get an idea about other things. I've told you that there's 7.7 million people who have PTSD, and I've heard the statistic of maybe 13 million people have PTSD. So it's much bigger than the 7.7 that I was conservatively guessing. With something like this natural disaster that's happening in Houston, there is approximately, I guess they say that 70% of all the people in the United States will go through some kind of a major trauma. But not everybody who goes through trauma gets PTSD. There's lots of things that are classified. You have to have it 6 months later, and it has to kind of be persistent. But for those of us who have it and know that they have it, know that this thing goes on and on and on. It's unfortunate if you happen to be one of the ones that are watching this, because you might have it too. So let's try to see what possibilities it might be just in Houston. So Houston is the fourth or 5th largest city in the United States. And that's behind things like probably Los Angeles and San Francisco, New York, Chicago, I'm not sure. But anyway, Houston is in that group. And I believe that there's something like 2.2 million people that live in the Houston area. So that's 7 out of 10 has the trauma. 20% of those have PTSD. In Houston, everybody has the trauma. We're talking about a combined 2.2 million people are going through this trauma at the same time. It comes out to 460,000 people will have PTSD. This is not a joke. This is not something that you can take lightly, because you're talking about at that just 1 3-day period of time, we're adding 460,000 potential PTSD victims. A lot of people. And it's a lot of incidences that we're dealing with, and it's not just the 3-day period, because those who do fall prey to PTSD's clutches goes on and on and on and on. And there's no stopping it. And if you don't take care of it, and I will strongly encourage, as I always have, that you've got to see a professional mental health person. And they're the only ones that can really tell you if you have the PTSD, and if you do, you got to start attending to it right away, because the longer you wait, the harder it is to deal with. I can guarantee you that once it gets its clutches in you and starts to get itself established, then the problem is it becomes a normal. You're normally feeling this way. Instead of feeling abnormal and something's wrong, that just becomes your way of life. And if this is what you're comfortable with, if you think you're comfortable with it, just remember, as bad as this is your best day. Things are going to get worse from here. I'm telling you, you better start taking note of it and start trying to do something about it. So we're going to, if you pay attention to our blog site, the first thing that we're going to do, first endeavor that we're going to do, is we're going to find some low-cost psychologists. The reason I'm saying this is that For the most part, when I started, it was military, and I thought it was only the military people that have PTSD. And it's only been lately that I've found about all these other people, and it's just been something that's more and more depressing to me. So I realized that if you are a military VA person and you get diagnosed with PTSD, then you get free care. That's pretty nice. Because if you're talking about this lasting forever, lots of money involved. Lots of money. So we're going to be looking at some cheap ways, or cheaper. I mean, there's no cheap ways, no getting around it. No cheap way to get out of this thing. You can either ignore it and hope for the best, or just start to do something about it. And that means that you got to expend some cash. And that's unfortunate. And I wish I could do something about it. And we're doing everything we can to try to figure ways that you might be able to save some money. And if that's the case, then certainly, hopefully you'll come back and realize that this has been a valuable tool for you. So in any event, I'm not going to go into too much more about that, but if you want to find out, I'm talking about that on our blog site, and we're trying to put down some numbers that might be important for you. I might talk about it a little bit in one of these videos, but in 5 or 6 or 8 minutes, you can't really do too much. But anyway, this is how you can reach me. This is, I'm Ron Dzezinski, and certainly I'd love to hear from you. This website will just go anywhere you want it to go. But it's all going to be about PTSD. I'm not going to talk about knitting or you know, where to go on your vacation. You know, this is going to be PTSD and things that might pertain to it. But there's so many of us out here, and so many of us that face situations that are interesting and might be worth hearing about, because we're all going to face similar things. PTSD is everything the same. The only difference is the circumstances. You're getting yours from a natural disaster. I got mine through the war. Somebody else might get it from bullying. Somebody else might have got it from being abused when they were a child. We're all in this together. And once you start to try to say yours is not better than mine, then we'll never get anywhere. So let's just agree to say PTSD is a bitch. And anybody who has it has to deal with it. So if you're a supporter and you want everybody, if you're feeling miserable, just remember there's other people out there feeling just as miserable, no matter how much you think yours is special. So in any event, I'd love to hear from you. Tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like. We're looking for people that are going to follow the site and follow the blog and follow the information and find some rewards that are going to be available for you. We're a 501(c) company, so there's no profits involved in this thing. I'm doing it because I love you all and I know how terrible this thing is. I'm doing everything I can to give back to this whole thing. So come and see me, find somebody, bring them along. We have to find a lot of people in Houston. If you've got relatives, tell them to tune in, because this is going to be a terrible, terrible thing, and it will be terrible, 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 terrible forever and ever.